we are a family business in a lot of ways, but most important to me is it's a family, a reputation and a family tradition, if you will. The Maplewood, we started in the city of Rochester back in 1947 by my grandparents. My grandmother was a school principal, and she got tired of doing that and went back to school and got her RN degree, so she became an RN. And my grandfather was a union electrician all his life, and he was getting older and he didn't want the rigors of doing that anymore. So they both kind of switched gears a little bit, got together with another couple and pooled all their resources and built a abandoned, or didn't build, but bought an abandoned Kodak executive mansion up on Lake Avenue in the city of Rochester, and turned that into a nursing home. And several other families, interestingly enough, in Rochester did the same thing, and it was kind of nursing home row up and down Lake Avenue, which is a central drive in the city of Rochester. So what really drove that was the boys coming back from the war, and both women and men entering the workforce, as opposed to the women used to stay home and take care of grandpa and grandma and the kids, and the men would go to work. But that all changed after the war when both men and women went to work. So that drove the need for what's now long-term care, where folks, the grandparents weren't staying in the house anymore. It's interesting, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now you see in-law quarters being built on a lot of houses, and a lot of what used to be coming back again, where families are now taking care of families again, in the home like they did prior to World War II. So that's a little backdrop to where this whole fun thing here started. But as time went on, old stick frame mansions didn't work anymore. Medicare and Medicaid came into being in the late 60s, early 70s. With the Johnson administration, and then the government got in the game, right? And everything changes when the government gets in the game. So no longer home-like environments and mansions and that kind of thing. We're not a part of it, but we had to be like the hospitals. So these places were closed, admittedly so. There were some fires that happened in the 70s, and non-sprinkled buildings and no elevators really didn't add up to a good environment to care for folks. So that changed and moved to the hospital model. So you had straight hallways, you had med carts, you have all the things that went through 70s, 80s, 90s that really mimicked the acute side of the business. And so we left that building in Rochester and came out here to Webster, which was, the shell of the building was a proprietary home for adults that didn't make it. It went bankrupt, and the shell of the building was here. So once again, the next generation, my parents, my mother was a nurse, and my father a nursing home administrator. He went right into it out of college, and went in the footsteps of his father, and bought this shell of a building. And I can remember when we were a kid, they put everything on the line to get that thing and renovate it to a skilled nursing facility. So we went from 28 beds in the city of Rochester to 74 beds out here in Webster, which was 3 times the size. So it was a very big undertaking for my family. And since that time, you can see around here we've had 9 additions. Since that little brick that started this place, we're about 5 times as big now as we were, but still with 75 beds, interestingly enough. And you can just see the progression of how the needs, wants, and desires of the market have changed, and the need to have more square footage and more activities and more nursing care, and everything from the hospital on the acute side has been pushed down now onto skilled nursing and rehabilitation. So we're doing a lot of things in this building that only used to happen in the hospital. So long explanation, but that's where we came from, and that's what kind of brought us here.